Hi there, grade 11s. I'd like to explain the situation around free body diagrams and force diagrams for the situation when you have more than one object touching or linked by a chain or a string, like on page 22, the exercise there, number 3, where we have object A joined by a string, and it's usually a string that won't stretch, and an object B on a flat surface, and there's a force F applied. To identify the forces acting on the objects, we need to consider the objects as individuals. So let's look at object A only. Object A, there is a string attached to it. Now, the force in a string is called tension. This whole system is moving towards the right. There would most probably be friction, and they do indicate that. So friction is in that direction. This object has a mass, so it will have weight, Fg, and there will be a force of the surface on the object upwards, perpendicular to the surface, called the normal force. So there are 4 forces acting on object A. To draw the free body diagram, we join all these forces at their tails, and the object A becomes a dot. So this is the Fg tied to the tail of the tension, tied to the tail of the normal force, tied to the tail of friction. This is for object A. For object B, let's identify the forces on object B. Object B, there is the applied force F. There is a weight Fg. There is a normal force. There will be a tension in the string that runs between A and B. This tension and that tension on A, that in that string, is the same. It's got the same value, just opposite directions. And there's a frictional force between the surface and the object. So there are 5 forces acting on object B. And these 5 forces, to draw them in a free body diagram, you need to tie their tails. So here we go. There's the applied force F, the friction to the left, curly F, the tension to the left, the normal force, and the gravitational force. So whenever you have 2 or more objects that are joint, whether they are touching or because they're pushed together, or whether they are attached to each other using a string, this is the way we look at the situation when we have to identify the forces, the force diagrams, as well as the free body diagrams. I hope you found this video discussing the situation helpful. Hope to see you in class soon.